Where's Gary? Chapter 3. Gary was sliding along through an empty desert. He heard a terrible howling sound which scared him, until he realized it was just his empty stomach. He sneezed and kept going all alone. Back in his house, SpongeBob took a can out of the cupboard and showed it to Patrick.
"These are Gary's favorite treats," he said. "They're filled with 8 types of organic sediment that bottom feeders like Gary can't resist."
8? Asked Patrick, taking the can from SpongeBob and examining it. SpongeBob nodded.
"All you really have to do is shake the can. Gary comes running every time. Go on, try it."
Patrick shook the can, but it didn't make a sound. SpongeBob was confused.
"Let me see that,"
he said. He shook the can, but it was silent.
"I don't understand," he said. "This is a brand new..."
"Ah!" belched Patrick. SpongeBob looked at Patrick suspiciously, then shook his belly. He could hear the snail treats rattling. "I only tasted 6 types of sediment," Patrick complained. SpongeBob and Patrick went outside to search for Gary. SpongeBob called his snail's name, while Patrick shook his belly. Rattle, rattle, rattle. With soap suds on his head, Squidward leaned out of his bathroom window. "What are those Neanderthals up to?" he grumbled. "Don't they know I'm busy spoiling myself?" Squidward pulled his head back inside and resumed scrubbing his back with a brush. Suddenly, SpongeBob and Patrick burst into his bathroom. "Yeah!" Squidward screamed. But SpongeBob and Patrick just ignored him.
"You check over there," SpongeBob told Patrick. "I'll check in here."
SpongeBob switched his hands around in Squidward's bathtub.
"Find him yet, Pat?"
he called. "No," answered Patrick, yanking Squidward's sink off the wall, causing water to gush into the room. "But I'll keep looking."
"But there's nowhere left to look!"
cried SpongeBob as the room filled with water. "There's one place we haven't checked," announced Patrick dramatically. SpongeBob and Patrick stood in front of SpongeBob's mailbox. It was jammed full of mail since SpongeBob hadn't checked it for days.
"I doubt Gary could fit in there,"
SpongeBob protested. "Can't hurt to look," said Patrick. When SpongeBob pulled the door open, mail came shooting out of the mailbox. The last thing to pop out was a rolled-up note.
"Look, Pat!"
exclaimed SpongeBob. "What is it?" asked Patrick. SpongeBob unrolled the note and began to read the strange scratch marks on the paper.
"Dear SpongeBob," he read, "these past few years have been some of the best of my life, but I must move on. By now, I have probably found a new owner who actually remembers to fill up my bowl every now and again. Sincerely, Gary, at least until my new owner renames me."
SpongeBob looked up from the note, stunned.
"Dear Neptune,"
he murmured.
"what have I done?"
Patrick looked stern. "What do you mean? You drove him away. It's right there in black and white." He pointed at the note. "See? Right there. And there." SpongeBob just stared out into the dark night.
"Gary,"
he said miserably. While SpongeBob mourned his missing snail, Gary used his last bit of energy to crawl toward a busy downtown area in hopes of finding food. He stared through a window at a happy couple eating sandwiches until the man frowned at him and pulled down the shade. Gary was very hungry. He slid into an alley and spotted a tray of old nachos. He hurried over to eat the cheesy chips, not even caring that there were flies buzzing around the leftovers. Suddenly, 3 tough alley snails hissed at Gary. He trembled with fear as they surrounded him. "Look who came to dinner!" growled the biggest, meanest-looking snail. Gary shot out of the alley as fast as his mucus could carry him. "Guess he didn't like nachos," said one of the snails. All 3 of them sighed, disappointed at losing their dinner guest. Gary kept going as fast as he could, trying to get far away, but he bumped right into a pair of shoes. Shaking with fear, he looked up at a shadowy figure reaching down toward him. "There you are," hissed a low, raspy voice. Stay tuned for Chapter 4 coming up soon.